Tesla, Amazon, GM, Google, Microsoft, just some of the companies that have laid off Americans this year, about 100,000 so far, with more expected. First off, if you have lost your job, I am extremely sorry for you. I feel for you. I've been there. I'm going to talk about it, but know that this could be the best opportunity that has ever been handed to you. It certainly was a great one for me. Hi, I'm your host, Kim Tisor. Welcome to The Good Place, where I promote what's good in the midst of life's hardships. In this video, I'll share the line of work that I did, the unconventional way in which I was laid off, and why it seemed like the worst possible timing ever, and the three ways that this has been a huge blessing to me. So, to give you my background, a little bit of my story, I was laid off last year, March 31st, from a Catholic media company.
Hello, and thank you for joining us this Thursday, March 23rd. I'm Kim Tisor.
Where I was a broadcaster. I wrote stories, hosted a daily newscast called Headlines, and was a regular news anchor for the company's nightly newscast. I had been there for about 2 years, and for the most part, I loved what I did. I loved the people that I worked with, and I still miss many of them and stay in touch with some of them. And also, working there felt like a major achievement for me because I wasn't even sure that I would be able to do the job after having a mild stroke a few years ago because of a cancer medication I was on, which really hampered my speech and especially my ability to recall words, which is a major problem when your whole job is to use lots and lots of words. So I found a lot of satisfaction in discovering that I was able to do the job. And so I pressed on despite the low pay, the constant pressure of cranking out a daily newscast, and the stressful commute that I had because I was truly dedicated to our mission. But March 31st of last year, everything changed when I got a phone call from the president of our organization and several of the leaders. I happened to be home that day. It was a Friday because my kids were on spring break. I wanted to spend time with them. So it was about 5:30 at night that I got this group phone call. And they told me they were sorry, but they had to let me go along with about 20 other staff members. Now, the timing of this was not very good. It just so happens that that very same morning, my husband, who was working out of state, gave me a phone call letting me know he had just been rear-ended in an accident. He was sitting at a red light and someone slammed into the back of our truck, totaling it. And he still has some physical issues as a result of that incident. And add to that, 6 weeks prior, I was diagnosed with a breast cancer recurrence and was already seeing medical bills beginning to stream in. I was facing a surgery the following week, and so more medical bills. And at this point, I really didn't know what my medical treatment would entail, but it seemed certain it would either be chemotherapy or radiation. And I thought, how am I going to find a new job in the midst of all this? How am I going to tell a potential employer that, hey, you know what? I really think I'd be a great asset to your organization, but I might be missing a few days and might not be, you know, doing my best on the job, giving you my best performance because I'm probably not going to feel that great. Like what do you do with that? So when I say the timing wasn't good, I mean it really wasn't good on the surface. In reality, it ended up being the best timing possible. So this is where the story turns. And if you're still hanging with me, I so appreciate it. I appreciate you. And if you would just hit the like button and feel free to subscribe to The Good Place. About a month after my surgery, I was sitting on the front porch contemplating what I was going to do. And as much as I loved working in media, I had worked in a mix of media and public relations for almost 30 years. I was kind of seeing the writing on the wall. Not many women in their early 50s get hired to be a news reporter or a news anchor unless they're in a really small market. And here I am in Detroit. I didn't see that happening, not to mention I am conservative. I make no bones about it. And conservatives aren't always welcomed or aren't made to feel comfortable in a very liberal environment, which most news organizations are. I considered returning to Christian radio, which I had done and love, but the pay isn't all that great. And, we do have three young people at home at the time last year. I had three teenagers. One has since now turned 20. So I thought if I'm going to make a change, this is the time. And for years, in the back of my mind, I had been interested in working in, wait for it, the death care industry as an embalmer or a funeral director, something along those lines. And I knew that to do that, if I wanted to do that, where also age doesn't seem to be a factor, so that was a good thing. But I knew it would require going back to school. And that's not something I wanted to jump into without doing some major research. And working in media, I'm accustomed to interviewing people. So I thought I really need to get with someone and kind of interview them per se, so I could glean from someone in the industry, would this be a good move? If I go back to school, what is the likelihood that there's going to be work available? What are the benefits and drawbacks of working in such an industry? And I wanted to know, would it be possible to shadow someone for a bit to see if I'd really like it? Now, I mentioned I wanted to talk to someone. However, I didn't know anyone in the industry, so that posed a problem, but only a short-lived one. I realized, I do live near a cemetery, not a funeral home, but a cemetery. And I thought, well, that's close enough, right, to the industry. So I just drove there and walked in the office and asked if there was anyone there who would be willing to pencil me in on their calendar at some point so I could ask some questions. And when I was there, someone gave me a couple of business cards and said, hey, reach out to these people. They might be willing to assist you. And so I did. And one of those people wrote back, one of those people who is actually now my boss. I had a meeting with him. He was very open to meeting with me. I told him I would only take 15 minutes of his time, but he gave me a full hour and I asked a lot of questions. And by the end of that, he asked, well, what would you think of working here? And I got to tell you, it was a sales position, which I've never really done other than a little bit of print media, print marketing, sales. And I was okay at it, but I didn't see myself as a salesperson. And thankfully, he said the words I needed to hear is we're not looking for stereotypical salespeople. We just want people who want to help families. And so when I heard that, I thought, well, maybe I could do this. If nothing else, at least it would get my foot in the door so I could kind of see more of the death care industry to know, is this where I want to stay? And I'm happy to say that I love what I do. And once again, I am with some wonderful people. So I get to do what I do, which is selling grave spaces, crypts, niches, graves, to people alongside some really wonderful people working for a great organization that isn't going anywhere. Add to that, that my pay is far better with room to grow. And I have a 4-minute, 4-minute commute, which was much better than what I had before. It was about 35 to 40 minutes of death-defying driving. It was just a scary drive every morning. So some key takeaways from this story are: evaluate the industry that you just left or that left you. Is it one that you want to stay in? Do you see that there's a viable future in it? A lot of people have been let go from the tech industry. Why? Primarily because of the integration of AI. And so if you want to stay in the tech industry, it probably behooves you to get up to speed on AI. As much as I wish it weren't here and didn't exist, it does, and it's not going anywhere. If you're looking at a completely different industry, educate yourself. Obviously, there is so much you can glean from online, but there's nothing like meeting with someone in person. And usually people are happy to talk to someone else who's interested in what they do. The person I spoke to was so incredibly friendly, eager to share about the industry. And it kind of brings me to my next point. We're kind of the same age. And I would recommend that if you're looking at a different industry, try to talk to someone who's roughly your age, especially if you're a little bit older, like I am, to know what is it like for people who are in their late 40s, early 50s, late 50s, early 60s. We all still have something to contribute, something of value, but we don't want to make a big leap into another industry just to get cut because of age. As I mentioned before, ageism is an unfortunate real thing. Now, another thought is you may want to seek out some resume writing workshops. Our local unemployment office offered those, and so I did take advantage of them, and they were really exceptionally good. They also posted all kinds of job fairs, would send emails on, which companies were going to be where, what they were looking for. And that's just such a great resource. So please, if you haven't yet, seek out your local unemployment office, which you probably will if you were seeking unemployment benefits, which for me, I received. It wasn't much, but they certainly helped. I didn't receive any kind of severance pay, which hopefully if you are laid off, you have, and it will buy you a little bit of time and give you some breathing space. But if not, just get down to the unemployment office as soon as you can and get as much information as you can. And then lastly, I would suggest, as hard as it may seem, do look for the blessings in this season, because regardless of how hard it is, I mean, maybe you're looking at losing your home, which is devastating. I know that there are still blessings to be found in this. In my situation, even though I was worried about finding work, I decided to let go and let God, as they say. And I was thankful that I had the time to recuperate from surgery, to go through radiation treatments and to recover from those, and to just get a little healthier and spend time with my children before they went back to school. I mean, it was actually a beautiful time. We survived. We're okay. And I'm in a much better place now. And, sometimes it requires getting pushed between a rock and a hard place to make changes. The job I had before the one that laid me off, it was not the best situation because I was hired to do marketing, but then I was placed in HR. Long story. And it was apparent they were never going to let me leave. And I was just so unhappy. And it took being miserable in a job for me to consider taking a chance with media again, not knowing if I could do it. That was a blessing. Like I said, learning that I could do it. And then it took getting laid off to move into a different direction that I had considered for a long time. And now I'm learning that I love it. There's a lot to learn in this industry as well, but growing is always a good thing. Gaining knowledge, meeting new people, learning new skills are always good. They're never harmful. So I would end just by saying, be open to new experiences and know that the very best for your life may be yet to come. Thank you so much for watching, and God bless. Bye.